This is the Raw walk and talk. We're talking Gervonta Tank Davis stopping Ryan Garcia in the 7th round to a body shot. I think it's easy to have certain takes in this fight, and it's a fight that I think a lot of people were just kind of mindset on what they were going to see, right? And a lot of people were kind of, were proven correct, right? They didn't think that Ryan was at Tank's level, and they thought that Tank would stop him, in the second half of the fight. So yes, people were correct about that, and that was a good if that's what you saw going in, was a good way to see the fight, because usually what Tank does, right? Tank will fill you out in the early rounds, and then once he gets down what you're doing and all that, then he starts putting he starts killing you with his shot placement by knowing your timing and knowing the repetitive motions that you have. There's a few takes I'm gonna have on this fight, so just go with me. First things first, on Gervonta Tank Davis. We hear that Lomachenko was the Matrix, right? That was his thing. He downloads your data and then he starts applying his game. Now, I'm not saying Lomachenko doesn't have some form of that, right? But I think that Gervonta Tank Davis is really the definition of what they had put on Lomachenko. He truly is downloading information. He truly is seeing everything you're doing, and he catches all the patterns that are happening in the ring and all the openings that are happening in the ring. And I don't know if I've seen a guy do it quite like this. I think maybe the guy right now that we could talk about that does as good as him is Terrence Crawford, right? We haven't seen him fight enough, I guess, in big fights recently for him to kind of keep going with that rep. But Terrence Crawford is very good at reading things and catching your patterns and catching openings. Tank Davis might be better than him at it. I mean, you literally cannot repeat a combination with him. And once he sees a combination, he knows where the opening's going to be in the middle of that combination. He is literally the Matrix. Tank Davis fights are kind of coming a little bit predictable now, honestly. It kind of reminds me of Roman Reigns' run in the WWE that we're currently in. And I don't know if you watch WWE, or you did at one point, maybe not watching it right now, but there comes a point where the guy becomes a champion for a long stretch of time, and Roman Reigns has been a champion for a very long stretch. And his matches somewhat become competitive, right? He has a certain moveset. The matches kind of take a certain rhythm, and you could kind of predict the way it's going to go at a certain point for every match going forward from that point. And that's kind of what Tank fights are now, right? And it's kind of hard to even take anything away from them as far as like the opponent, or if it was a tough fight, or if it was one of the tougher fights for him. You can't, because it kind of all feel the same, right? And it's kind of interesting because guys are kind of having somewhat their best performances, right, against Tank, or kind of proving that they are at a certain level against Tank, but they're all getting stopped, or they're all getting beaten clearly. And it might just be the Tank style, the way he fights and the way that he likes to stay in there and make his reads, and he'll give up early rounds. So it kind of feels like the guy's making an early push in the fight. The fights like you have with Mario Barrios, fights with Leo Santa Cruz, fights with Isaac Cruz, even Hector Garcia, where they make an early push, fight seems somewhat competitive. Then Tank goes into his, almost like his Hulk Hogan doing the no mode, right? Where he kind of breaks it all down, or he finds the openings, and then he goes and suddenly ends the fight. Suddenly gets the stoppage. And that seems to be what all these fights look like now. So you can kind of predict these fights, the way they're going to go now. You would say if Tank's going to win, it's going to look like this. And it's interesting because, like I said, guys like Mario Barrios, guys like Isaac Cruz, guys like Hector Garcia, we kind of walk away saying like, oh, well, they look pretty good though in the first part, right? And then Tank's power day. But it's just like, well, maybe that's just Tank's style. Tank's style just this, it makes guys look good. He carries them early and he takes them out late. So it's hard for me to take away from this fight what Ryan Garcia really was in this fight. Was he competitive? Was this really a challenge? Was he one of the tougher fights? Or was it just a little bit of rinse and repeat where Ryan, started off strong, got dropped early, still was kind of in the fight, losing on the points in the 3-round stretch, and then found the right hand. But, Tank's hittable. He's not unhittable. It's just how much time are you going to hit him before he puts you to sleep? That's really what it is. So it's hard to take from what these fights are. It's kind of, like I said, it's similar to me to what in wrestling, like what Roman Reigns is now. It's like I could kind of predict how Roman Reigns' match is going to go. Deuce.